Okay, ready then?
Yep.
Good to go? All right. Welcome everyone, to the Atkins City Council meeting for May the 28th, 2024. We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. The roll call of members present. It's Jim Kane. Present. Samantha Peterson.
Present.
Trevor Dursky.
Present.
David Fisher.
Present.
E.J. Bell.
Present.
All members present. Thank you, everybody. So at this time, we will ask for a motion to approve the agenda, if so inclined.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Kane. Need a second. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Motion second, further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to adjust number 9, please. We can discuss it, but we can't vote on a resolution tonight.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to approve. So you would like to,
We can have to discuss, but a resolution without financial information, I do not believe we should proceed.
I would like to, I disagree. I think we've got a presentation that will offer some financial information, and I'd like to keep this as is and have the opportunity to have the discussion and potentially move forward.
if you would wish to make a motion to amend the motion, you could do that. And you could.
I'll second Dave's.
Well, first we have to state what the motion is to remove item 9.
No, I said adjust number 9 to remove the resolution vote for the design.
Maybe a better option would be to leave it as is and table, you could make a motion to table the resolution at that point in time. So there's an offer for discussion. So I believe you'd have to leave the item as it's published.
Change the wording, right? Do you just amend, or do you have to either pull it or leave it?
I think we'll adjust it. Discussion, selecting the design, and establishing the first time.
Wouldn't that require a resolution?
Yeah, it'd be just discussion only. I think Councilmember Fisher, you just like in resolutions, correct?
Yes.
Just my thought is to amend the agenda wording without notice. So,
Make a motion to remove the word resolution from the item 9, which would say just discuss.
We've done this before, where we remove stuff on the resolution.
well, so to state the resolution by Council Fisher would be to change item 9 from discussion resolution to discussion and strike resolution.
Could we
Correct that.
hear from what financial information will be presented today before making that decision?
Well, the next thing we would do is have a vote on this resolution. We have to, or on this motion to amend, we would need a motion, which we have, and then we need a second.
Which he should
Okay?
I think Councilmember Peterson's asking for discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I think you're asking for financial information, and I think there will be some of that shared with us today that might answer some of your questions. So just because we can get to this item 9, and change it at that point as well. So there's another way we can do that.
Yeah, I've had zero information to this point. I've been on the council for over 6 months up till now.
This
and
is
I've not
full of
seen any
financial information. Dave, this is full of financial information.
It's nothing. That's only about the project.
That is incorrect to say we have received zero financial information. It's incorrect. I don't know why this is funny. I'm serious.
I am serious as well, because the only thing we've had is on the project itself,
What about debt capacity?
and debt capacity. But I have not seen any financial information about the city
Like this?
like that.
Okay.
This is what's being presented today.
So, we'll continue with discussion.
I want to see it left in. I think we need to keep moving forward on this. We've done enough delaying on it. Any delays now is going to show us back.
Further discussion? Mr. Bell?
I want to make a vote on this thing, and people can vote for the vote. See how they feel.
So the motion is to approve the agenda and with.
We're going to vote to remove the word resolution.
Okay.
Yes, the motion is to strike the word resolution from item 9. Okay. So with that, we'll have a roll call. Jenny Kane,
Nay.
Samantha Peterson,
Nay.
David Fisher,
Aye.
BJ Bell,
Aye.
Trevor Gursky.
We have been provided a lot of information. We've engaged a professional accounting firm to come tonight to present on the financial position of the city. Sandy, how many years of experience do you have in municipal finance? 30. And Teresa, if you can hear me, how many years of experience do you have in municipal finance?
43.
43, 30 and 43. Sandy, is it your opinion, would you consider the city broke or even in a poor financial position given everything you've seen? No. Teresa, what's your opinion of the financial position of the city?
Well, you're in a good financial position other than your proprietary rate.
Which means sewer and water, correct?
Correct. And basically it's your water and your sewer.
And so I want to be very clear why I'm doing what I'm about to do. It's because I do feel that we have information to make this decision. At least I do. So nay.
Motion fails. The item number 9 remains as written. So now we return to the main motion, which is approval of the agenda as written. We have a motion by Kane, second by Peterson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll begin with the roll call vote. Jim Kane,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Nay.
BJ Bell,
Nay.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, at this time, we will begin with a public hearing to be held on proposed budget amendment for fiscal year July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024. We'll open the public hearing, and just a brief word to chat about a public hearing. That's the opportunity for the public to speak on the topic. After comments need to remain on topic, and we're limited to 3 minutes. And speakers will be required to come to the podium, state your name, and you would have 3 minutes. Is there anyone that would like to speak on the public hearing for the budget amendment for fiscal year July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2024? That's the current year budget amendment. Okay, hearing none. Have we received any written?
No.
Okay, no written comments? So at this time, 6:46, we will close the public hearing. Move on to resolution adopting the budget amendment for fiscal year 2024, beginning July 1, 2023, and ending June 30, 2024, for the city of Atkins, Iowa.
Motion to approve budget amendment.
Motion by Kane, and second.
Any concern or discussion for the budget amendment?
Well, we can call for a second.
Second.
Okay. Second by Trevor Dursky. So at this time, we will open the floor for discussion. Council? This is a typical, somewhat typical year-end matter. To adjust the budget or anticipated ending expenditures and revenues. So, for the discussion.
I had one. Give me a second. I'm just reading the
Can I just get the clarity again on the enterprise, the 254,000, Sandy?
Yeah, and that's why Teresa, one of the reasons Teresa's on the phone with us, but that, in the state's Department of Management report, the FY24 budget was showing our solid waste expenses under proprietary, and Teresa and I both believe that because the city of Atkins is not managing its own enterprise like water and wastewater, those should show as general fund expenses. So we're moving.
Just moved over to that bucket. That's my understanding, so.
Okay, any comments by Teresa?
I was re-looking at my sheet, but I would have sent Sandy I didn't want to confuse my cities because I've been helping a lot of cities with their budget amendment. I'm actually looking at the wrong city right now, so I'm like, okay, that just doesn't seem right. And it's another city that starts with AT, so but I keep having to make sure I find the right one in the right city. So there were a couple oddities to me. I don't know if that's the right word, council, but for some reason, I'm wondering why, but your garbage expense, your garbage expenses were budgeted on the Department of Management site. They were budgeted in the proprietary area of the budget, but they aren't proprietary in nature for you. And in fact, you as the city never take the expense or revenue out of the proprietary. You always take it out of the general fund, which is where it's supposed to be. And so I'm not sure if that was done. I don't know if that was done to try to maybe not make the proprietary area look as bad. I don't want to guess. I shouldn't even have said that. I don't know if that's why it was done that way. But that one really stood out to me when I started working on this a little bit. And then also, it wasn't a problem because I think when you did the budget a whole year and a half ago, there probably was anticipated to be some sort of capital improvement for the fire department in this fiscal year, and it didn't happen. So we made a big amendment to lower that in capital improvement for this fiscal year. And you need to do that because the auditor is going to say, why would you have over budgeted an expense by that much? They usually like to look, sometimes if I remember right, it's 10%. If you're somewhere over 10% different than what was budgeted, they're going to say, why did you do that? They want to make cities aren't sure, cities aren't overtaxing residents and those types of things. So we made that amendment so that we could lower it because we knew we weren't going to be doing that in the next month in June. And then additionally, because we had to lower the garbage and proprietary, we needed to increase it in general fund, which is where it really was. It just wasn't on the state form. And if you'll remember right, and I think this is what kind of messed up, it didn't mess up anybody's vision because I didn't say this, so I apologize. But when I first started with you guys over a year ago, and I was looking at your 2024 budget, one we're in right now, and I was looking at your FY22 annual financial report and your FY23 annual report, and I was looking at the stuff you had in your system, meaning G-Works. The stuff in G-Works wasn't matching what was in the state form filed with the state, and the annual financial reports weren't matching the fund balance reports that I was getting off your system, and I just didn't know, what was going on. And I think I used a number somewhere like $200,000 in capital improvement here or there that was like I couldn't find it. And so it's taken a while to and a lot of pencil and erasers and a little review to figure out a little bit what kind of happened. And In the meantime, I first talked with Ted at the Department of Management, and Ted had told me that the city has to comply with the budget that was filed with the Department of Management. So since that's what was filed with the Department of Management, and you filed that your garbage was proprietary and that it wasn't in the general fund, because we're not spending it that way, you know, it's a hand slap because we're not spending in the right program areas where we budgeted on, and things like that. And so that's what I've been trying to figure out with Sandy and make sure that things are in the right spot or not in the right spot. So I was taking the figure that was put in the state site or the Department of Management site, then I was taking the figure that was put in your city system, and then I was taking the actual number that we were at on May 15th to help determine what I thought needed to be the budget amendment. And that's where we came up with these numbers for the budget amendment. Now today, we had a phone call today, and we talked about bank statements and other statements that, and the various statements that are coming off of GWorks, which is your financial software that you use. And I'm getting more comfortable with the GWorks software because almost every city I'm working in uses that. I will say that I'm not totally comfortable with it yet, and I continue to probe them with lots of questions to the point now where they have given me an honorary, I don't know what you would call it, honorary login, honorary something, and I'm being allowed to take their university classes so that they think if I learn more about their software, I might not be so aggressive with my questioning. But in my conversation today with the mayor, Councilman Dursky and Sandy and Trisha, I believe her name is. I think that's right. We talked a lot about the FY22 audit that was finally officially publicized on the state auditor's site. And then I talked about the bank statement that was June 30 of 22, the bank statement that was June 30 of 23. And I talked about balance sheets that I've ran for both fiscal years, fund balance sheets I've ran for both fiscal years, and now the treasurer's report. And all those come off of your system. And so what I quickly put together this afternoon, and Sandy, I don't know if you were able to lay a copy out for them.
Yes, they have it.
Okay. It's similar to what I gave my city council absolutely every month. In addition to that report you're looking at right now, which I call the bank reconciliation, I also gave them a revenue and expense report that's going to show you what was budgeted, what we spent this month, what we spent year to date, and where we're at percentage-wise. And we can try to run the revenue and expense report for, let's say, Trish and I kind of look at, I don't know where she's at with her stuff, but say we try to do April or May, I'm not sure where she's at, you guys. But let's say we try to do that reconciliation for May, give you a revenue and expenditure report, which gives you that information we were just talking about. And I used to give my council what was called a treasurer's investment report, but that's because I had several investment accounts, and quite honestly, apparently you folks have a checking account and a savings account, and so that's included right there on that savings or on that bank statement for you. But in addition to just an Excel spreadsheet that I give you, you should be seeing the bank reconciliation off of the system so that you know it actually matches that Excel spreadsheet that I'm giving you, that I'm not just making up numbers. And that's how you guys become comfortable and secure in the knowledge that these numbers are right. It was comforting to me that when I today fund balance report, the treasurer's report, and the balance sheet, all for June 30th of 2023. And I looked at the bank statement, that the truth of the matter is the bank has more money than your books have, which made sense. That's why there's obviously outstanding checks or outstanding things that happen, which happens every month. So that's what I put together. That's what I gave Sandy. You know, $2 million when your $2 million balance, when your general fund, let's say let's see, what are your total expenses each year? About $8 million, right? That includes proprietary. So, $2 million balance in the checking account and your expenditures are $8 million. I can't even do that in my head. That's how terrible I am. Math without a calculator. Even when you're a finance person, you should know that. But, so that's right there, 25%. So you're at a 25% balance, which is what the GFOA best practice recommendation is that you have for them. So,
can you say that again, Teresa?
Was I comfortable?
Teresa?
I'm sorry.
Teresa, can you repeat that, please? What's the 25% recommendation, best practice?
So the recommended is, excuse me, it really should be just for the general fund. So let's say your general fund expenditures, but okay, it really should be for the general fund alone, but I was throwing it all in there because we know that our proprietary funds aren't all that healthy. Your total expenditures for FY 24 that you put into the city system was $7,823,000. We know that's going to be lower because we took a whole chunk out, about $3 million out of capital projects. So we know that's going to be more like $4,823,000. And your balance to pay is over $2 million. So your overall balance is at 25% or higher for the whole city. The general fund recommended balance is 25%. So I would have to, Larry, cut that down. I would have to look at what that, I think it was 1.5 million is the general fund balance on our books.
Oh, 1.15. 1.15.
1.15. So, but I would, in terms of expenditures. So I have to look at the end of the year for expenditures in the general fund, and they were, based on odds last year. Our expenditures last year were 1,822,000.
Let me correct that, Teresa. I'm looking at
Okay.
July 1 of 23 is the bank reconciliation report here. And Teresa, you're referring to the current,
No.
No, she's referring to 20.
you are 23. Okay. Yes, correcting further, general fund balance 1.156 million at the end of last fiscal year, or July 1 of 23. I'm gonna see. So.
And so the 1.1 or 1.1 5 million. And your expenditures were,
And she's the 1.8. Is that right? Is that what she said, Bruce, 1.8?
No, she hasn't finished that statement yet. She's looking up something. So would it be safe to say then, Teresa, that 25% cash on hand for the, represents the general fund? Is that the recommendation?
right, and so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you have a balance in your general fund of 1,155,000 or whatever it is I just told you it was.
Yep.
And you're spending 1,000,008, you obviously have more than 25% of a balance to cover that. I mean, 100% would be 1.8 and you have 1.1. So,
So,
Okay.
so coverage of expenses.
Correct. This is something that we've talked about for multiple years, and it was once said that you had to have the full balance, and it was like, no, it's not that high.
And it's tied out off to the right with actual
Correct.
bank balances.
Correct.
And so the number's been floating around out there, 2.25, 2.25. I think I've seen at least 3 different numbers that we're supposedly short on. It was related to this point in time, 6/30/2023. And so what changed, Teresa? Was there a
so
change?
what do you think we're short on?
Yeah, Teresa, I apologize, I left the room for a minute, but when we talked to the auditor that did our FY '22 audit that, just reported to the city in March, going back to the end of '22, the beginning of '23, there was a transposing of an amount from capital projects to general fund. And that was the amount that Teresa had looked at, that we talked about in February, that I think gave people where she was confused about where things were showing up on the state reports. And so all of the money was there, it was just in the wrong fund, and that was corrected. And what she was able to show here is where we really were at that time period, end of FY '22. And what prompted us to call was that because we all met with the auditor for the FY '22 audit, I knew if we were materially off, that auditor would have called us out on it, and they did not, which meant there wasn't missing money, it was misallocated on a form. And when Teresa was working with us, as well as other cities, it was not immediately apparent how it was to be corrected. Or
When was this misallocated?
In the AFR from FY '22. Yes.
Okay.
So, because what happens in the AFR gets transferred to the budget form, and then if someone goes back and changes the AFR, it's already in your budget form and you can't change it. So it just confused the heck out of me, because there were so many different numbers and I didn't understand what was happening. And I felt like,
yeah, our auditor, that person that we're working with, Jesse, the person that we work with the state auditor, was well aware of this issue and that had been corrected in order to move forward with the FY '23 budget that they started on today. So.
Teresa, Jim Kane here.
Yes.
That fire station capital project, in every budget that I've been involved in, we've always had money for capital projects in the fire station fund. Last year, we knew since the derecho that we haven't really been spending that because we didn't have the building. There was several things, but as I recall, and this is just my memory, we put that in there, and I don't remember the exact amount, but last year we were projected to break ground in August of last year on the new fire station. And we weren't sure about some engineering costs and some incidentals, so we left that as fire station money just to kind of cover us, knowing that if there was extra there, it was easier to pull it out at this time with our amendment than it was to try to come up with it somewhere if we needed it for incidentals.
That's absolutely true. So, and I think we put money, I hope we put money in the FY 25 budget for the fire station.
Yes, we did.
Again, because we were planning to move forward, we didn't move, so that's why that's that big of an amount.
Yeah. It would only make sense that we do that since you did pass a pre-levy. So that would make sense.
And so that's 2.5 million in assets at 6/30/23, right?
Correct.
And as of April 30th, 2024, that is 3.7 million in assets.
Which is over half the price of the fire station.
Not really.
It's not, I don't think that's right when you think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't work that way.
Teresa?
Where does that 3 million number?
Yeah, sorry, Teresa, that's from Trish,
That's from
the
ESG.
current, yeah.
Right, we were looking
What
at
she's
the,
working on.
Okay.
I know
we're not
I
there
didn't know
yet.
where you came up with that.
Right, we hadn't given that to Teresa.
right, what we have in front of
That's the
us.
current base statement amount?
Yes,
Okay. That's good.
That's the total, that's all the funds, not just the general, but, 3.725 million.
Teresa's gonna present on that later in the agenda.
Right. So Teresa, if you didn't hear that, you're welcome to stay on for Trish's presentation a little bit later in the program, as we say.
Well, I had another Zoom call that started at 7, I'm supposed to be on, so,
Okay.
unless Trish needs me to, otherwise I will catch up with her. There's some of these, G-Works reports I want to discuss with her anyway that,
Okay.
for all the rest of the years, so.
Right, well, Trish says we're
But
okay.
do any of the other council members have any questions of me before I get off? I guess?
Thank you, Trish, appreciate it.
Thanks for 5%. That we've been talking about for years.
All right,
Thank you.
all right.
Have a good evening.
Talk to y'all later. All right, bye.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt the budget amendment. Refreshing, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Is Jim Kane,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
David Fisher.
Aye.
BJ Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, item number 5, consent agenda. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion second for the discussion.
I just had a quick question on G, the resolution to approve Benton County's Ivy State outreach thing.
Okay.
What is that again? Is that something we're allowed to do on here? How's that work? I don't remember that one.
That is Benton County, the out-of-state extension, each year offers to host science camps at the Park Pavilion. And that resolution allows them to use that facility free of charge during their camp times. They have 3 camps, and they will send us an invoice for $300 to hold the camps. Total, it's 300 total. And it's been very well attended each year that I've been involved with that. It's quite a good camp.
Council, I call that, we're contracting with them to provide that service.
Okay. I just know some of that stuff was audit issues,
Correct.
so that's been corrected.
You can't sponsor someone doing it, but you can contract with them to provide the service.
Okay, all right. All right, so we're good on the audit side. All right, that's what I'm gonna make sure.
Any further questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote. Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. And item number 6, resolution approving a minor boundary change. The lot known locally as 303 Second Avenue to create parcel F. This is a plat review and requiring approval. It's been reviewed by the city engineer,
This was,
surveyor.
we changed we had another minor boundary change, and then it was contingent on,
This was
restructuring these two, right?
correct, this was the second phase. It was
Phase of it.
disconnected and then this created a non-conforming lot, and this is to correct, to put it back together as a conforming lot. Close to within 30 days of the original.
We took two pieces of property and we put part of one over to the other, then they sold it. Now we're putting it back to the way it was a few years ago.
And we had required that they do this quickly. And that's why it's under
This is the culmination, right? Because we had talked previously about within 60 days or 30 days.
30 days, and this is the piece within 30 days, yes.
This action will be recorded at the county so that the properties are all, lines are all accurate.
Motion to approve the boundary change.
Second.
Motion is second. Now any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jim Kane,
Aye.
David Fisher,
Aye.
E.J. Bell,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item number 7 is a presentation by Paula Mitchell, ECOG, which is Eastern Iowa Council of Governments, and a resolution authorizing execution of amendment number 1 to the contract with ECOG for community development block grant disaster recovery, administration, and project delivery services. So at this time, Paula, you have the floor. Tell us about that project.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. Paula Mitchell with ECOG. And as the mayor indicated, this relates to a contract amendment with ECOG service agreement. Just to walk you through the background on this item, the city was awarded funds through the Iowa Economic Development Authority in February of 2023 for new housing construction to replace units in the region that were lost or damaged as a result of the derecho. And that contract originally called for 4 units to be built. And ECOG has been serving as the grant administrator. The funds are passed through for the city. And the grant administration services are paid for through the grant. So recently, the city was actually awarded a contract amendment that would add 2 units to that project, as well as some increased service delivery. IEDA had not increased their caps for project delivery since 2008, and costs have increased since that time. So they've also made some allowance for that. So this would increase the contract with ECOG from $20,000 to $44,569, which is the expected cost to complete the project. And again, that's paid for through reimbursement from the grant. IEDA does require that the grant be administered by a certified grant administrator, which all of ECOG housing staff is certified. And then next steps, should you choose to move forward, is we would work with the city and the developer on amendments to the development agreement, promissory note, mortgage, and covenants and restrictions that you've already approved as well to increase that funding amount to make sure that all of the city's participation is secured. And that's all I have.
I know the The first part of the project is moving along nicely, and it's actually the one that's probably ahead of schedule for most of the area.
Yes,
All right.
yes, that's correct. Yep. I think we're expecting the first units to close middle of July.
Any questions for Paul?
Thank you for everything. It's gonna help.
Okay. That's a presentation, and there's also in that topic 7, allowance for motion to approve resolution. Allowing execution of amendment number 1.
Make a motion to approve amendment 1 to the resolution.
Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion concerning the motion to approve?
Is there any questions on the council about this program? Where funds are coming from?
I've been here since the inception of it, so I know all about it.
Just to recap a little bit, it is a federal program.
Correct.
And I'll let Paula actually describe the path of the funding.
Sure. So after the 2020 derecho, it's actually a couple of years after the derecho, there was some funding allocated originally by Congress, but it's funneled through the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And the state of Iowa received 56 million approximately of that allocation. 80% of it had to be spent in Lynn County, and then the remaining 20% was eligible to be used in Benton, Marshall, and Tama counties. So it was a competitive grant program that the city applied and was awarded these units. The contract is through Iowa Economic Development Authority, but the money comes from the federal government.
Maybe
Explain how people are eligible for the housing.
Sure. So the units are intended to be affordable for workforce housing, and applicants can purchase them for a maximum purchase price of $175,000. The money in this grant is to help buy down that purchase price a little bit. And there is an income qualification. So these are people that have to be able to support a mortgage. So that typically means they're working folks, although they could be retired as well. But the maximum income limit for a household of 1 in Benton County would be approximately $56,800 and change. And then for a household of 4, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $81,000. So it's adjusted for household size, but those would be the maximum limits. And again, the minimum limit would be set by the necessity that they would qualify for a mortgage.
And there was a minimum amount of time that they had to live there
15.
for.
Oh, yeah, I think it's 15.
15
And that was the
years. Yeah,
thing that
they do
really
have-
got me. You have to stay in the house for 15 years or you have to pay it back.
Yeah.
I actually looked into that, but if I sold my house and did that, I could afford to get in there, but the difference in taxes, it'd kill me and I couldn't afford the tax on the fancy new houses.
There is also a requirement that they're marketed for 4 months to people who were impacted by the derecho, and that can mean a lot of things. So we think that if you live in Lynn or Benton County or lived there at the time of the derecho, you would likely qualify.
I think he was really lucky to get Rawson from Shellsford there to put this together for us. He's done similar things in Cedar Rapids, and I think he's done a real good job of giving us quality housing and getting into this program.
Okay. Motion is second, so we'll call for the roll call. Trevor Jersky.
Aye.
E.J. Bell.
Aye.
Jim Kane.
Aye.
David Fisher.
Aye.
Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Paul. Now moving on to item number 8, presentation by Tricia Cornell of the ESG Professional Accountants. The agenda has outstanding misspelled, but we can handle that.
Just in case. Right?
Sure. So, at this time, I'll let Tricia have the floor for your presentation on the financial.
Thank you for having me. I just wanted to provide an update from when we started. When we started, the financials were in process to be reconciled through the end of January. Dick, I believe, was working on that, so we were able to step in and help kind of accelerate that process. And since that time, we've actually been able to get all things posted and reconciled through April 30th, 2024, cash-wise. So I apologize on the note, it says balance sheet reconciliation. It's actually only the cash account that's reconciled through April 30th. And with that provided, and I apologize, we didn't give Teresa a heads up that she created that report through the end of the fiscal year, so we just replicated it through April with what we have. And then I wanted to kind of provide some feedback of where things were at. So the fund balances on the report on the left-hand side, as of April 30th in G-Works, the total fund balance is 3.7 million. And then crosswalking that against the actual cash balances. So the top two balances there are the bank accounts at the end of April. Check is 3.4 million. Savings account is 384,000. And then as Teresa talked about, a lot of times, and just like with anybody's personal finances, you have outstanding items. So if checks get cut at the end of the month and they don't quite clear before we close the month, we will have an out of balance between what our bank statement says and what our books say. So verified open items, there's $1,400 in deposits. All of those are detailed at the bottom here for you as well. So primarily utility billing deposits that just haven't cleared yet. So ACHs or credit cards that happen towards the end of the month that came through verified in May. The other portion is checks. So checks that were cut towards the end of the month that just have not cleared the bank account, ultimately to continue to be reviewed as they age out. And as they age out, we will follow up. Research items is the next section. There's several line items there. There is about 49 transactions that need to be reviewed that are open items on the bank rec that are primarily prior to this fiscal year. So there are a handful of items that are going to need to be cleared. So to Teresa's point, the net of that is about $31,000. That's reducing our fund balance that may or may not be legitimate. So we have a conversation with the state auditor tomorrow. We are talking to the state auditor tomorrow. We're gonna have a conversation with him about what is the approach and how do we get these things rectified in a way that keeps us compliant from an audit perspective, gets things cleaned up, and then we can get those presented to you guys to get those cleaned up. It's not a huge dollar amount against the total fund balance, but it's still creating it's noise that's not legit that we need to make go away. And then I had one small little blip on the radar. Fund accounting, when I posted the interest, I used the proper bank account for bank rec, but I put it into the wrong bank account on the GL. So we'll get that fixed. I just wanted to, that's another reconciling item I wanted to make sure to share. We'll have that fixed. That's not a problem. So that is where it stands today. We need to review those items. The next step as well is to make sure that the fund balances are accurate, that the information, the dollar amount total is good. We just need to go through and make sure we've identified a few postings that are in general that need to be on their own. And we need to kind of walk through that just to make sure things are accurate from that perspective. And so that when you guys are getting information. And also one caveat, Treasurer's report does actually show you guys the puts and takes for the month, which ultimately we should be able to provide. This is really just the fund ending balance for the month. We will be working on policies for segregation of duties. I noticed that was a control weakness in the audit, which is most. So we will be working on segregation of duties for that to make sure that those who are drafting, depositing, reconciling are, we have compensating controls to make sure we're good there. And then there are a handful of balance sheet accounts related to payroll that need to be reconciled. Nothing material that I would feel that there is an issue. It's just a matter of making sure we have things in the right place, and we're good from the balances perspective for when financials are presented. And then financial, so that's transactional as it relates to financials for reporting. We just need to work through the posting of transactions, have worked to streamline how we're posting some of the bank transactions to streamline the recon process, but getting a review process to make sure things are landing in the right spot for reporting. And then setting up reporting structures for the AFR, for the city clerk, for you guys, so what that package is ultimately going to look like. So working through kind of those pieces once we are feeling good about where the transactions lie. Personnel and payroll, so have identified a few benefits and withholding items to review, to dig into a little bit. Haven't made it to the top just yet. Ultimately, between that and special audit, just to make sure everything is aligned, set up properly, and tracked, managed, reconciled for ensuring things are accurate. An overall evaluation of the payroll process to ensure compliance when reporting. My current understanding is that the city's compliant with all entities, federal, state, unemployment. It's just a matter of ensuring that aligns with our balance sheet accounts and reporting. So from what I've seen so far, things are well, and we don't have any issues there. And then one of the things that Sandy's requested is just an outsourced payroll quote. Our organization provides payroll and HR services, looking at the payroll processing, comp time management, time off management, benefits enrollment, HR required training for your policies, and then DOT monitoring tracking. So that is to come as a future item. Any questions?
Yeah, Trish, this segregation of duties that you're talking about, I know we're tremendously understaffed. I'm just wondering about the timeline in here, if we would be better off staffing up. I know we're going to have process, but if that would help this segregation of duties things, and I don't want to see any back and forth, to do one and then have to back up.
Yep.
How do you see that playing out with our increased staffing as we get up to where we should be for a city of this size, and with our workload now, since you're outside?
Yeah.
You can give us a perspective.
It's reasonable. I will tell you, I've been dealing with audit for 15 to 20 years of my career, and everybody gets a controls weakness, period. I had a team of 17 and I got one. So it's a matter of ensuring that you have compensating controls, documentation, and that you're following it. So I think that we can come up with a good solid process, which ultimately we'll review with the audit team to make sure that it's acceptable under their standards for making sure that we have the proper segregation and duties in place. And it's not just under cash, it's pretty much across all things that are financially related. This one is, cash is just a super hot topic because it's the most visible component of the financial. So I don't envision there would be an issue with having segregation duties or compensating controls with a team of at least 3.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
I think it should be fine.
I think the two things we're really looking for as a council initially is actual budget and a treasurer's report. And we got to see where we're sitting in terms of operating expenses, what's coming on versus the plan, and what's our capacity to or need to adjust or delay things or prioritize things, right? That's operational to me, that's actual versus budget. Then we also got to understand the balance sheet, which to me is fund balances, cash, reconciling that to fund balances, which is the treasurer's report, I think, the
Yep, at the end of the day. Yep.
I would submit if we could put that to the absolute front of the list. I know that there's the transactional piece here. I'm assuming you have to work through some of that before you can get to what I'm talking about, but I'm okay. I would recommend we assume risk if we need to with the segregation policies and some of the others, specifically speaking to the audit, to get this council the reports they need.
Yeah, as Trish and I talked about it, our concern with giving you that today was the we need to go through the transactions to make sure that what we're showing you, we think, we know there are some,
It would create way more questions than
So
would be helpful. I
we're
think.
talking about
Like, we think this is.
Are we talking about expenditures?
Yes.
Yeah.
Miscategorized expenditures?
Miscategorizing.
Yeah, just either wrong fund or wrong
And-
department, so it's a matter of walking through those. So that's gotta be done in order to get you anything
I
that's,
will level set there. It's what I've been saying the
Yeah.
whole time. I'm looking at July 1. If for 2025, right?
right.
Starting July 1, is it possible for us to, that first month, to see an actual budget for 25? Or are we not going to be able to?
Well, that's 100% reasonable. What I would like to, what's that?
You can do it sooner.
No, well, the
Well, it's
plan
just
is,
24. We got a month left to 24.
right, well, but the next step
I mean-
too is, so there's,
So I
There's
would hate
still-
to do that, and that
Yes.
delays us being ready for 25.
wouldn't necessarily say so, because really it's just a matter of walking through transactions to make sure they're in the right spot. Like, one thing we've identified is the CDBG ended up in the general fund, it needs to go to a special fund. We have several items that go together with that, it's just a matter of identifying and getting things moved. I feel strongly we do need to do that for this fiscal year. I don't think it's not gonna delay having that information, starting with the July 1. I think with the close of the fiscal year, there should be reason we should be able to get that information together. I don't feel,
So how many people are working on this to get this?
right now, it's just me right now.
So I'm just saying, if we as a council to get this where we want it to be, have another person added, like, get it done, what would be the steps to get it done faster?
Right.
So that we are July 1, where to go. So we have everything that we need to have this information so that we're not don't take it wrong, we keep paying.
Nope, I got you. And I
Large
can feel what you're
dollars,
saying.
so we can get it in-house to back where it's manageable, for our staff, at least somewhat,
Well, I was gonna,
So-
we can talk about this whenever we need to, but we do not have the staff to do this in-house.
So at this point, okay, so, well, okay. But at least get it to a point where it's not so,
Definitely, this was catching up. I mean,
Yeah,
I think, I'd say we're close to being at maintenance, right?
Okay.
If we want to do this in-house, we're gonna have to have the staff in place in the house prior to getting this done. That's just reality. There's no way we can try to do that if we don't have the staff in place to do it. We're gonna go back to digging a hole that we can't get out of again.
The way I would say it is that we are going to continue to need ESG or some other service like them until we get staff on board that whose job description it is to do this.
That will be a training issue also included there, so that's not gonna happen July 1.
No, but I also
But
don't think
we can be moving forward in that.
But it's,
so. How many?
maintaining it won't cost that.
Yeah, that's gonna probably was my question. Do you have a rough idea how many more hours you have to get it where we want, and then maintenance hours until we get fully staffed? Is that something that you would know off the top of your head, or is that something you'd have to go back and kind of
Haven't started
figure out?
the rabbit hole look at the current transactions. I mean, in terms of like what's been posted and
So which,
walking through that
so when you say rabbit hole transaction, sorry. I just-
everything that's posted for the year. Are they in the right fund? Are they in the right department? Are they categorized correctly? Are they posted correctly? Do we
And that's
have
just
proper
for
accounts?
2024.
Correct.
what we're talking about.
FY24, yep. And then once that's caught up, working on documentation process, so for knowledge transfer, we would support knowledge transfer as well. We would not walk out as soon as you hire somebody, we'd make sure you guys have what you need. So working on documentation, which would support the knowledge transfer. So, and some of this stuff, to Sandy's point, is it's cleanup, it's not really repeatable things that are gonna repeat. And so, I don't know that I could probably answer that now until I really kind of get started on it, but, and then I can also work on what that ongoing would potentially look like. from this
Yeah, I would rather that you have some time to think about it, a good answer, and
Yeah.
give us a good report on it.
Is that something reasonable that you can have with our next council meeting?
In 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah,
Okay.
to have an estimate of.
Just so that we
working
can kind of maybe put it back on our agenda item, just so we can kind of see where
Yeah, yeah, I think that's
How
right.
close we're at.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
This report that we received today, are we prepared to be able to deliver that on a monthly basis at this point?
Yeah, so what'll happen is, once we get, that's kind of part of our, what's the reporting, what's that package look like? Which I'll ultimately defer to Sandy on, like, what are the different levels between each group gets? But yes, the treasurer's report will ultimately be a report that would be delivered on a monthly basis, post-close. So, which should not be a problem with, now that we're caught up, and then, in maintenance and, ongoing, it should not be a problem.
Okay, the other question I had was on the $31,000 that you were referring to, that you're reaching out to basically. Yes. What's the best way to describe that? So those funds are, take for instance, a check went out to somebody and they did not cash it. Is that what those types of things are, what you're trying to present?
Yeah, actually, and I looked at maybe two of them. One of them was a check we cut to G-Works for a product that we thought we were gonna buy and we didn't, so the check's actually on site. It was just never voided. So it's sitting so it's basically what it's doing is earmarking the funds.
Right.
So either to your point, yeah, the check went out and they didn't cash it, or if the check didn't go out. Same with deposits. There's a handful of deposits that could be a result of they got posted and they got reposted, and so it just wasn't cleaned up. And then I've got I am a 30 to 60 day check follow-up person. If the check doesn't clear within that 60-day window, usually reach out, either recut it or find out, like, are you sitting on it? Did you get it? There's an address issue, whatever that looks like. And then try to keep those things either moving or to keep them cleared, so that you're not sitting with checks from 2019 on here.
So when you talk about the 31,000 or whatever, will we get a breakdown of kind of what that was?
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, so we need to understand which funds are impacted by all of those transactions, and then what's the path to getting that cleaned up in the current fiscal year, when a lot of them are a result of prior fiscal years.
Okay.
And I've not necessarily dealt with state auditor in terms of materiality and what they may or may not require in terms of opening prior year audits. I can't imagine that was the case. There's not a year that's so substantially large I'd be concerned about that. Yeah, so it's just a matter of having that discussion, one, so that when we get down to the FY24 audit, we have what we need in order to make sure that.
So basically, some kind of on the audit report, have a breakdown of all those, saying, hey, these affect prior years in a bucket that says, hey, these are all part of this.
Yep.
And it's in this bucket. So
We almost expect it to have to come
To you
council
guys,
to be disposed of.
yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
figured that, yeah.
That's our guess.
Not necessarily a write-off, but just essentially moving the funds.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they need to be.
Yep, getting it off the cash back to the funds, and yeah, we'll get that breakdown. Yeah, that was my thought too, was that you guys probably have to do it.
Okay.
The other question I would have for council members to make sure that Trish can answer it is, what you've heard, I think private sector calls it a balance sheet, we call it treasury report. Is that what you're expecting? Is there anything else you're expecting? Because it'd be nice to know that now, so that as we put what Teresa calls a financial package together, I think when you refer to that information, we give some of that information to the fire department, to the library, to our city departments. That's what you do monthly, to make sure that they're seeing their own expenses and verifying that things are going in the right place. That's the process that makes sure that you're not years later wondering if something got attributed to the wrong account. But making sure that what the elected body sees as well. Have you not heard something tonight that you're seeking? You want to make sure that.
So, I think you were looking at me, and
I just want to make sure that we're hitting on what you're doing.
So, I'm looking for a report just like this.
Fantastic. Good.
I think that,
We're super happy to get
From
it.
what I heard, we weren't gonna get this before, when I seen the information about July
I wasn't
1.
sure we needed to see this, so it's nice to see this.
Yeah, well, and
So
I
taking
want
back-
to clarify the July 1. My
It's actual
intent with
versus
July
budget.
1 was about getting the accounts. And I know we talk funds and accounts and it's all public sector, jargon, and I apologize for that. So when I say chart of accounts for July 1, what I meant was, you probably heard me talk about it at budget work session where the city of Atkins added.
I understand exactly what you're
And we're
saying.
cleaning that up to start July 1, so that what you see from the fire department to the water to parks is the same. And for some reason, the city made those different, and that makes it very hard to report across the city. So we're correcting that to start July 1, but that's only day 1 for July 1. This, and I apologize if those two got confused, because what we were waiting for was for her to get through all the transactions to be able to give you what you have today. And that's what you should be getting monthly, what you probably should have always been getting monthly, but they simply did not have the information in the system to be able to spit that out. So as long as that's what you're looking for, we're on.
This is what I'm looking for on a monthly basis. What I'm looking for on at least a quarterly basis would be what you're talking about, the chart of accounts.
You would want to see how the funds are.
Right.
How
That's
the funds
the
are.
actual to
flowing.
budget.
Second.
To budget, yeah. How are we?
That'd be the actual budget.
Yeah. And
By fund.
quarterly probably makes, I mean, there's no reason why you can do that monthly, but quarterly makes sense just because we don't spend that. So, it doesn't change drastically. You see the big ticket items.
I mean, I think that one, the cadence on that should be related to our decision making. I think, the actual worst budget. If we think we need to make decisions inside of a quarterly cycle in terms of prioritization or delaying or adjusting the budget, then we need it monthly. Probably upfront, we don't know necessarily, so I'd go with monthly if it's
And
possible.
I'm gonna say, I don't know.
You could start there. even
Yeah, we could
if
start with
something's
monthly. I don't know why you do less than monthly. You might not see a big change, from month to month based, what it.
And that's gonna help our budgeting
Our
also in the
staff,
future.
though, from a staff perspective, absolutely. we look at
So
it.
I'm gonna ask this quick question. How much work did it actually take to print this off, to get this, if it's maintained, once they're in there maintained, it's pretty quickly to get this a monthly report?
Yeah, so
It's,
first step was streamlining how we post.
once it's in a maintenance.
Once I was gonna say.
Maintenance,
Oh, yeah,
I'm talking
maintenance
maintenance mode, as in like a
Right
normal,
now.
well, where you want, we're talking maintenance, we're not talking
To get here.
to get here, we're talking,
Maintenance mode, it's a matter of reconciling bank statement, review balance sheet, probably fund review. I probably would put together a process for that to make sure things are in the right spot. It could be fairly expedient,
okay, good. That's what,
so.
that's exactly what. Thank you for this information.
Is there any reason, is there any way these fund balances, it'd be nice if we could bucket them against the AFR funds.
Yes, we're trying.
Yes, it's,
That's a.
that's part of the, yeah.
behind
GWorks
this.
has about 17 different ways you can slice the data.
Yeah.
One of them
It's
should
how
be
the
that.
budget gets loaded and making sure that those things align,
So is that like I'm just gonna jump in, sorry.
Yeah, go
Is that like a GWorks program issue, like
No, somehow the city of Atkins has corrected how the.
I wouldn't say corrupted. I would say did not use the system to its full capacity. Is probably how I would
Not
put it.
assign those.
Correct.
Oh, I thought they
So
were done.
in what I've seen, there's probably 6 or 7 different ways to slice the data. So in terms of the AFR and all that, because you need that reporting in order to complete the report. We can set up traditional reporting with consolidated income statement balance sheet. It's just a matter of understanding that there's like 6 flags that you can use for different things, and most of them are all assigned the same thing. So anytime you try to slice the reports, it's pretty much the same result. So I wouldn't necessarily say
I see what you're saying.
corrupt. I would just say consistent entry of information where we can actually utilize those things to produce multiple reports from the same data.
So,
And that's
so-
where Teresa is, because Teresa the most knowledgeable of us, for the state reporting.
Right.
And, because I too could not figure out how, what I was working from G-Works from a budget standpoint, I figured out how to build the budget, but I could not figure out how to get it into public safety, public works,
Mhm.
cultural, and, the categories that the state uses. And what we found is there is a way to do it, but it has not.
And they're not all, it's not fully structured either, to Sam's point as well. Like, they're just not all there. So it's a matter of identifying what that needs to be, getting it set up, and then getting it applied. And that,
Is that what we're referring to getting set up by July 1st?
yeah, I think that's reasonable. The biggest part of it is the beautiful thing about G-Works is you have to do an account by account. And there are hundreds of accounts. So, but once that structure's set, it's a matter of somebody sitting down and typing in codes and changing codes and saving and then testing it. So it's completely doable. It's time. It's figuring out what the structure is, which I think is the most critical, because you don't want to spend all the time changing the accounts, have to go back and redo them until we really figure out what that structure needs to look like. And we've already identified at least 2 or 3 things between what is needed for the state and then some of the other reporting.
So is there in these, let's call them the ledger accounts, I don't know the
Sure.
proper accounting, bookkeeping term, but you have the state accounts, right? Those are fixed, those are how the state thinks about
Yeah.
fund
And we
balances.
issue a package every year.
Right,
of what
and
they're
our
recommending.
treasury report looks like it's in ledger accounts. Is that correct?
Those are funds.
They are funds.
Those are actually funds.
Funds.
They're not the same funds as.
Ledger accounts are like your revenue, your expense. And
So
this is this is your roll up.
is there a fund on our side, on our internal statements that unfortunately supports 2 or more state funds? Like it, or can we group these ourselves? If you tell us, hey, general is 001, 110, 112, and 121, and we in our minds say, okay, that's general. Can we do that?
Well, you
Or
would-
not?
I don't think you would do it, I mean, not to do it here, but 001 is a general fund in the state, that's very defined, that's property taxes. That's
Okay.
the revenue that you are all setting every year.
Road use,
And road
special,
use is a special revenue fund
local
that's
option.
distributed by the state. Another water, sewer, those are combined into proprietary on your budget forms to the
Yep.
state. So I think, I don't see a reason why you'd ever want to go against what the state is doing, but you would definitely want to stay within the state's reporting.
I'm just asking if how difficult it's gonna be. You're saying like we can build it in the system, but it doesn't sound like it's gonna happen right away.
It's really more I'd say the other way. So this is probably most rolled up. And then general fund, inside of general fund has
Public safety, public works.
city hall.
City hall,
There's a
city
handful
hall,
of departments within there that you can then
parks, library.
like drill down into. So then of the 1.47 million, how much of that relates to city hall? How much of that relates to all of the components inside of that?
Actually, of all these, the general fund,
Probably most
one
of that.
has a bunch behind it.
Everything
The
else
other
is
ones
pretty
are
straightforward.
It just seems like it speaks to how easy it's gonna be if the actual first budget comes out in our internals, how easy that's gonna be to map it back to the state budget form that we all kind
I
of
would say the only thing built in there right now is the mapping back to the state budget form. Whether or not it works, but it's in there. That's the only
Okay.
mapping. The mapping that is
Okay.
on all of them, that's it, is that.
Okay.
There's a functionality, which is the city work, public works,
Public safety, public
public
works.
safety, public works. Those are, there's gaps
Cultural
in those.
recreation, community economic development, general government.
Those are set up, there's gaps in them, but we can expand on those.
All right.
Tricia, thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it. Great job. Thank you for all your work.
Tricia, just a report on how available are you during the week to work here on your schedule? Just curious on.
I do have scheduled time, and then I can always, like, tomorrow. I'll probably be back tomorrow to meet with the state auditor since he's gonna be here, since we have a couple things we need to address, so, can be flexible in that. I also have remote access, so I can work outside if I need to, or log in to do something if I need to. Amy helps me a lot, she's great. So, available, and via email as well, and I can be available.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Moving on to item 9, discussion and resolution selecting the design and establishing proposed timeline for the 2024 fire station project. This is a topic that's been on the docket for a good amount of time, and the city council has before a resolution, and I think we can begin with the discussion portion of that. So just open it up that we have 3 proposals in that resolution, A, B, and C. A being the plans, 100% plans that are ready to go to bid. And we have an alternate B and alternate C. And those have varying estimates of building cost associated with them. And the city council's been provided financial estimates of funding mechanisms for each one of those in the previous meetings. But I would like to just open it up on my own here just to say that whenever we talk about a project, the city has partners involved with these, and I always like to recognize them because they've been playing I'd say, a key role in getting this all set up. As far as the funding aspects of it, we have the partners of again, the federal, the state, and those are on FEMA and disaster recovery. Originally, when this project started, there would be a 10% match required by the city, but somewhere into the process of disaster recovery, the state stepped in and said they would absorb that extra 10%, so we have 100% recovery on the FEMA amount that would be awarded. So between federal and state, and then the insurance comes into play. Of course, we have insurance on the building, and between the two of those, that comes to $1.4 million. And then through the county, we have the TIF aspect of any of the funding, includes the county portion as well as the school. The schools are backfilled largely, but so the county, the school had to sign off on this agreement for the TIF aspects of it. And then we have the fire district, who also agreed to fund dedicated portions of their funding. That it sits today at $40,000 per year as a conservative amount, and there's we thank them for that. They've always been a good partner with us. And then also, beginning with this process, we began what we call a pre-levy, which is levying or asking for taxes to get ready to fund this project. And that amount sits around $300,000 today. It sits in a bucket, but it has to be dedicated to this project. And then and of course, the remainder would come up from the city aspects of levies. If we look at option A, which is roughly $6.1 million, the contribution or the amount that the city would be asked to fund, with all the partners in play, is about $3 million. The other partners are picking up the remainder of it. And I'll ask Sandy if what's that number about that you would expect? Hate to put you on the spot. You can say, you want to check on that, but that's, I'm just looking at the numbers from from our funding sheets from Spear Financials. So that, again, about 3 million is the city responsibility, and that includes a portion that's in the TIP. There's a portion of the city funds in there too. So that kind of gives you an idea of the partnership that's been formed, but that partnership impacts all three options. So I just want to bring that up. That's something a lot of people don't realize when they see a number. This, unlike other projects we would have, we've got essentially 5 partners involved in this. We appreciate their willingness to go along and to get this project rolling. And I hope we can, we really do need to keep this project moving to get the building started this year and get the project that is available for bidding. The plans are option A. Option B and C would have to be designed, and therefore option A is the one that's ready to go quickest at this point. So just want to open the floor up for discussion now.
I must say the same thing I said at the last meeting. Option A is ready to go. It doesn't commit us to a thing. We get it out there for bids, we see where the money is, and we move forward. If the council chooses in parallel to that to spend some engineering money to look into options B or C, I would be open to that. I don't know what those engineering costs are, but either one of those is going to push our bid date out into September, and we're going to lose this construction season. We will not be able to award bids until September. Now, maybe we can squeeze out into October and November. I've seen years that we can. I've also seen years where it was snowing on Thanksgiving and it didn't melt until July. I don't want this thing to be pushed out into next year, and I will not support having either one of those options as the primary option. If we put it out for bids and we don't like the bids, we're not committed to accept any of those bids. We can pick or choose depending on how the money comes in and how the bids are. These numbers here are projected numbers. They're not actual numbers from any contractor, construction people. I want to see actual numbers as quick as I can. These firemen have been putting up with shit for 3 years. And if you look at it, we run 200 calls, 197 calls last year, awful close to that the year before and the year before. That's 500 trips some of these firemen have been making them. If you're on Cardinal or Pheasant, that ain't no big deal. Boom. If you're out here on Parkview or Pheasant, Deer Run, or whatever the heck it is, that's a heck of a mess in the middle of the night to have to fight through, and then to go home at night after the end of it. I keep hearing that they're volunteers. We don't have to give them what professionals need for support. That's bullshit. Volunteers deserve more than professionals, not less. Option B and C both are cutting the size of that building considerably. Maybe we don't need the building now, we're growing. I don't know how long before we outgrow that. If we cut this down to the minimums we got, we're going to be looking for a new building or some way to expand on this. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but soon. It's the same crap we had with the water tower. We put that water tower up there. Our department, water department, and streets department says put it 25 feet taller and you won't have a pressure problem. The council says, oh, we're never going to grow uphill. We're okay. Leave it alone. Now we got a pressure problem. We're going to have to build a whole new water tower because we didn't put 25 foot onto that one. I can't sit up here and see us go down the path that we've gone down for the last 30 years, picking the cheapest option and making our first responders and telling them they need to go out and fundraise, or they need to go out. It's not like, and then they compare this city to other cities. We're not like any other city. Every other city around here that built a fire station had opportunities to plan for it. They had an existing fire station when they did it. They may have outgrown it, but they weren't jammed into some temporary quarters and forced to work under the conditions that our guys are doing, and they're doing it every damn day. I want to see this project move forward, and I want to get dollars on the table to see what we can do, and I want to see that we give them as much as we can, as fast as we can. I'm done.
Any other thoughts?
We have to, for option A, in both cases, we have to grapple with the idea that it's gonna require cash of the general fund. 150,000 to 725,000. I mean, I think that's something that's important to consider. It's not, that is a material difference between option A and B or C. B or C, from my estimation, the only thing we truly give up is parking lot. We give up the build out of the mezzanine space, and we give up the glass doors, but I think you see at least some of the value of giving up the better R value, the better insulation from the glass doors, and the mezzanine is still there.
We can do both of those under option A.
Deducting all of those items under option A, the last thing we got from Maggie, 6.045 million. You have option A.
This.
That's the only thing that actually financed it.
Yeah, it's in the resolution, probably, but it does include all the deducts off the total.
6045709. $6,045,709.10. $6,045,709.10. $4.5 million on the GO bond, $1.4 million FEMA insurance is $145,700. It's got to come from somewhere else. I mean, I've got this capital improvement plan. It's got 189,000. That's priority number 3 on our sanitary sewer that we almost would fund. 5.1 million total in new mains. That's just mains. So add to that the potential for a new well, an additional RO skid, and a new tower. And that doesn't touch Cardinal Ave from a street perspective. Not trying to directly challenge you, but I can't get to A. I can't get to.
I maybe can't either. I'm totally with you. But voting on A right now costs us absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. We put this out for bids, and we're in the process.
Unless the bids come back and they're still not tenable, and then we got to start the timeline on B in July.
Why? If we want to, we can start the timeline for A, for B or C tonight. I'm willing to do that if we put A out for bids to see what the numbers are. That, for 3 months, then we can have the bids coming back in and we can have engineering. To your point, you're right. Maybe we don't need 3 months on B or C if we want to pick one or both of those. If those bids come back, if those engineering things come back in early and anytime before fall so that we can get those bids in and out in this calendar year, I'm open to that totally. I don't like the smaller building because I think we're going to outgrow it. I'm totally with that. I'm totally with the parking lot has never been a thing for me. As far as the mezzanine, the only thing that I'm hard on, I would really like to see a shower in that upper floor. not an abundant, a shower, just so they've got a personal shower there. It's gonna be rubbed in. You're probably looking at a couple, $3,000, maybe $5,000 for the shower. It gives them a personal shower. To do B and C and have our engineers, whatever that cost is, will be able to track those costs and see what the bids for A come back in. Solon came in at half of what they estimated because they got contractors to donate money, labor, something toward the fire department. I don't know that we're gonna do that, but it doesn't cost us a penny to find out.
Well, I think that that's live on B and C. And still, face is still there.
No, it's not, because it goes from, the mezzanine is, but we lose 8 foot. It goes from 14.4 to 13.3.
That's on the other side. You lose the scuba room.
Yeah,
Which-
we're losing floor space. That's, and that floor space, if we put it in now, is gonna be a whole lot cheaper than if we have to add that or increase the building. So
It's $1 million.
Again, I don't know.
It's $1 million scuba room.
I don't know that.
That's what it is.
I know, all right.
I mean, that's how you get from 6 to 5. Not to be cheeky.
No,
and serious,
I-
like to get B6.
I
to be
hear
ducks.
you, I totally, but I want real numbers. I don't want engineering estimates to move forward. I'm willing to look at B and C and go ahead and fund that. If we put A out for bids at the same time, that costs us literally nothing to put that out for bids. How can we say that we don't do that?
Because they,
Thank you.
so,
Any other comments?
So it already has a personal shower in the facility. And that's a decontamination room. It already has it in there. To put one upstairs, that would be an additional one. First and foremost, the information that I have is only based off of what I seen up at Center Point, and it is a comparable facility, square footage wise. We have more square footage as far as the office area in ours versus theirs. Again, I struggled with the fact that my numbers could be off that much, given that I had a professional company giving me the information. So basically what they're saying is the cost of production or cost of construction is over 100% higher than what it was in 2021. I don't think that's possible, but that's what Solomon Lang is telling us. I myself have heard from the council that we approved $3.6 million for the project. We came back to the council and the council approved funding to go out at 4.5, but they were told that they were not going to go at 4.5. It'd never be close to that. And we came in at $6.6 million for the project. I don't know how that could even happen if you are actually managing the project according to what you had approved from the council to be spent. I believe we should go out to the public and do a vote if we go over $4.5 million. That's where I'm at.
When I came on council, that was literally the first vote, first major, pretty much the big vote. It was like second weekend or something like that, second council. And that's what us three were told. I mean, and when it was talked about 3.5, 3.6, whatever it was, you know, there was like, wow, that's a lot of money. And then when it jumped to 4.5, it was like, okay. Immediately I started getting phone calls, what the blank is that? No freaking way, I'm not paying that. My taxes. And then my perception is, well, we're using tip dollars.
and we got 1.4 from FEMA and insurance. We knew the insurance money. We kind of had an idea what it would be for FEMA. So my perspective has always been 4.5 is what I've already voted for. I really do believe we can keep it in there. And my big thing is not letting the public have to spend, go into their taxes. And that dollar amount pretty much, very little. It was like 1 or 2 years, 3 years, I think. And we're already at 2 years where we've got those dollars sitting in there that's already impacting them now. So 1 more year, and then it's done at the 4.5. And so there's relief immediately to our, residents. And then I hear the kickbacks. I keep hearing that kickback. Oh, Iowa's giving us a kickback. And I look at that, yes, that's great. But that money is going to disappear because a lot of people still don't understand we pay taxes in arrears. So yes, you'll get a kickback, and then it's going to jump back up because Benton has theirs. We got school stuff coming on. We've got water projects where a lot of, we got to get people to understand the water project is going to go directly onto your water bill. It's not going to come in the other form, probably not. So, you try to manage all that. And like I said before, the volunteer firefighters have done an amazing job for my family. I have no issues with it. I'm just trying to manage the cost for everyone, So, somebody told me today, you made the comment to me, okay, if we get it down to like 4.7, and EJ, but you're at 4.5, would you go out to bid? I'm gonna actually say I would, because I'm gonna go off the Solomon Lane, making the comment, okay, it could come under that with the different percentages and stuff like that, and say, hey, I'm still gonna stick to the 4.5, because it could still come out under that to get it out, start into the bid. I'm even willing to say that, and that's coming up. I'm willing to move if there's an agreement on some of this stuff, but anything above 4.5, I'm willing to put my hand out there and say, hey, I'm willing to help the fire department, start raising some funds, whatever I need to do, to be part of the team. I'm more than happy to do that. I know we have different resources out there. A whole community, I'm sure, would be more than happy to get some of the outliers, a shower up on the second floor, the furniture, stuff like that, so we're not coming out of these dollars, we have different places in here we can have that. We've got churches, we've got City Hall, we've got pavilions, we got Bloomsbury Farm. I bet you Sammy, potentially, I would hope, different places that we can raise and do things for the fire station to get us back on track, back to the day when they were, having the pancake stuff and all that stuff that everybody likes, we just don't know what people in this community are willing to donate and do. So
let me follow up on that if I can.
no, that's fine. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm trying to be flexible, but 4.5, I feel like I've already voted for it. So I'm willing to go there because I already did it, but that's where I'm at.
So I've talked to individuals at the fire department. Dan, I apologize if I can't, you didn't want me to attribute this, but one, full support for outreach activities at the station. I'm willing to work with them. I think it'd be nice if the council did work with them. But I think that's absolutely there and should happen, and you have a willingness to make it happen. Two, that training room that's a part of all plans, A, B, and C, is also an option to be a community room for broader community use. We'd have to work through some of the details on that. But, assuming that the pavilion is booked, maybe that could be an additional opportunity for folks. I think there's goodwill to try and make that happen. We have to obviously consider responsibility of people to keep it clean and repair any major damages, but to that point specifically, I agree. I see a path here. It's maybe not what everybody on their own individual wants, but I think it's the aggregate overlap of all those wants to satisfy what the city needs. I think we have an opportunity, EJ, for that. And a lot of phone calls.
Right.
On the bond, option B. Here's my thinking. I think that the return on option C has a lot of merit. The fact that we're not going to re-engineer the main parking lot here to 8 inches, so keep the trucks and the load off of it, but also just congestion and safety with families and people trafficking in and out of City Hall and maybe trucks coming back. I like the idea of traffic routing, emergency services having their own way in and out. But I think I see a path with B, and we put it in the bid as an option, give us a price to do the return apron that's in option C. If others are amenable, we could also probably have them price in. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I'll leave it there. I'd like to do option B with the price, with a bid as an option for the return apron.
I completely agree with that. I see what you're saying, Jim, about the plans that we have, you know, the 6.6 and the 6 million, but option B and C are not bad options, you know.
I'm not saying they are.
Well, I mean,
I'm willing to open to all of those, and I'm willing to engineer
I
them.
think
I'm just
they're
not willing to
very-
wait to September to get off the bids.
That might be the only way to get it.
I think it's the only path forward, and
That-
Just
you made a
whatever you can,
comment
whatever,
about,
it's your
Just
decision.
one-
If we do this, and if this comes in and we get bids, the council is committing, we bond for this, okay? So we're committing,
Jim.
so I just want
talk.
to clarify one thing. So you made a comment about missing the construction season, but on the resolution here, the option B and C timeline with the revised design, I mean, Solemn Lang was confident that we could start this year, so we would not be missing, I mean, things happen. right?
in May of last year,
May.
they said we were gonna
Well,
make
we're
all,
waiting on FEMA,
last
and now
year.
we have, that was what we were waiting on. We weren't waiting on design, or, you know, there's other things that were going on. But we're not, if we make a decision sooner rather than later, we will not miss this construction season, which is important, to your point. And option B and C are good options. It's not like we're,
I'm not saying they're not good options, I'm saying the delay is there, going with them
I
in
mean,
conjunction with throwing the bid out there. And if we do this, and if we bond for this, we're committing, what? We're committing to pay that bond off every year, and that goes into our budget, it's something like $300,000 a year for our bond, if we do the 4-5.
The 4-5, well, I don't have the 4-5.
At one time, anyway, what, we're committing to make that payment to the fundraising and all this other stuff, community efforts. That's a negative balance on our budget at the year. How we balance that doesn't have to be tax dollars. If we can get corporates or other places to donate to that, that can be used. That's a GO bond, so we've got no limit on where we get the funds to pay that bond off.
I just think
thinking
that
of-
option B and C are, you know, Sandy and the architects put in work to have options that provide an opportunity to compromise on both sides. Trevor made a good point at the last meeting about, you know, let's make some efforts to be a consensus-seeking council. I think these are options and ways that we can do that and still start the project this year. Sandy, I was looking back in your council communication from a couple weeks ago, I think, and we do have to make a decision. I mean, in that council, you mentioned today, I don't know if that's still the case, but we do have, you know, I feel like we have good plans. We have an opportunity to compromise. I love the idea of going with option B, but then, you know, checking out what that return apron would be, because I like that. I think there's a path forward, and it's still a good option, and, I'd be totally comfortable with that. That was kind of my thought process too, is starting with the option B and then having the option to add that on. But I think it's important to take advantage of this construction season if we can. And this is a way to do that, I guess is my thoughts.
And as I'm thinking of fundraising, the estimated net debt service in the $3.5 million bond is $311,662. That includes the 24 pre-levy. So it's $311,000 outstanding, 312 if you round up. And that's where I said last week with 300,000 approximately in fundraising, which I think is a realistic goal. So doing some numbers, a wall, a plaque wall like what we've got out there could maybe raise half that.
Is that, if that 300, is the payment 300 or is the payment?
That is the total of everything above TIF, the fire station, the pre-levy is $311,000 for the life of the bond. It's $300,000.
And we've already got 168 in the bank?
That's incorporated.
Yeah,
That's incorporated. That's coming out every year.
That's what that's 24.
So we've got to add 300 to the 160.
Well, I mean, the 24 pre-levy is going to defray costs in 25.
Right, so it's like pulling the first 6 months off. It's 300
Right.
a year period, and we've already got 168.
Right.
So we have to come up with, that first year, we gotta come up with 140.
Not if we raise it.
Again,
That's my point.
yeah, so we could,
But that number gets a lot higher almost any way you do option A because of the parking lot. It's $1 million. I mean,
well, I'd be happy to throw the parking lot away.
that's what we're
That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
That's
But
what
not-
being, that's.
If
what
we
we're
could
doing.
if we go with option A and remove the parking lot from A, it's easier once you throw something out for bid to take things off of the bid than it is to put something back
We
on.
can't because of the size of the building. The building is off the property line, is into the existing parking lot. If it's at 8 feet, that's what that 8 feet gets us. And again, the mezzanine space is still there. It's still a really nice building. A lot would argue, even on option B, we could and should have done it cheaper.
Maybe we can still. I don't know what the bids are gonna come back in. Once we get those bids in there and we get real numbers on the table, then we can work with our contractors, and there's options to remove everything. I've never seen a contract yet that you don't put out there and get the numbers, and then you can take things off, and it's very, very easy to take things off of a bid, and even if we do that, and we decide on B and C.
We can't take it off the bid.
what's your thought?
Yeah, that's what I mean, Mike, we talked about this
Yeah.
in May 21st. We talked about this with the Sunlight. The problem with public bidding is that you're pretty locked in. You want to make sure that the public bidding process is competitive and that it's fair to all bidders, which means you have to bid the project that you want. And you can do ads, which is what you're referring to. What Songline had suggested before was deducts, another way to try to get to a price that's fair. But no matter what, the bids that come in on bid day are all the same. The problem with suggesting that you're gonna negotiate with the bidders, one, you can't negotiate with the bidder after the fact. You can do change orders. But typically, and we talked about this because I had a council member ask me the same question, what if we put it out for bid and it's still too high? I want to negotiate that we put cheaper windows in. Well, once you start negotiating that, you lose a lot of your value of that deduct because there are automatic ads. The design that we're paying everybody along the way.
You've got to put it out, and they all have to be.
Not again. You can do change orders with your existing
Right.
awarded bidder, but they add 15% your architects add 15% as your or
Right.
add a percentage as your designers and your, construction managers, and you lose dollar for dollar your savings on that. And the reason is because the state bidding, the state law about public bidding wants to make sure that you're not negotiating with an awarded bidder, because then it's not fair to the people who didn't get the award. It's not ideal. It's public sector versus private sector.
Yeah, I
mean,
understand
it's, public sector, to make it competitive for all bidders doesn't mean it's the most efficient method of construction. It is absolutely to be transparent. And so I only caution that you have to bid the project that you're gonna build. You can't bid a project. If you reject a bids, to your point, you said, if I put it out there and I don't like the bids, I can reject them.
Right.
But remember that you have just exposed everyone's bids. And typically, bidders don't want to come back. They've spent a lot of money to put together those bids. It's a very expensive process for them. And it's very hard to reject bids. You can be accused of it would be hard to continue to do the work, I think, with those bidders. Solomon would probably caution you against, you couldn't keep designing as you're also going to bid. I apologize if that's, I can't, we can ask Solomon if there's a method to do what you're talking about, but the way you're describing it.
That's what I would like to find out from them. If we could do that, and if those bids come in at this 6 or higher, and they may come considerably higher, if we do the design and pick B or C, just pick one of them, and we can get 3 people to pick that. Get that design work done, and we've got these bidders already have a good share of their work done. If they go into, if we decide with this other option, it's gonna be till September, but they've already seen the majority of what they're doing, and it's going to shorten.
They wouldn't bid.
They wouldn't bid. Okay.
I mean, you couldn't put your bids couldn't come back until all the information is out there. So you're not gonna save any time. What I suggested in my communication, and I think what we've put on the timeline with Solomon's approval, is the timeline that says, you have time right now if you wanna pick the 100% design that's done. You have a little bit of time to talk about the $6.6 million option and still go to bid this year and construction this year. If you want any kind of redesign and bid, that's where I said Solomon, and I agree that June 1, is, we certainly can push it past that, but you can see on the timeline, you're getting to cold weather, to your point. If we have a warm fall, you hope to put footings in, get the thing framed up. Solomon says they build all winter now. That's not, a thing anymore that, that you shut down for the winter, but they need to get the footings in the ground. And, every day after June 1st for a new design. And we'll push Solomon and Snyder, the civils, to redesign quickly, but the only design you have any room for timeline right now is the full design.
Right.
If you want to look at A, B, and C, you need to make the call and put the design in place.
To my point, I've just seen too many times where it's gonna go beyond that, and we're gonna lose this whole year. Maybe our firemen will stay with us, but there's so few of them. And every one of them that I talk to, every time they get in their car and go down to that station, it's wearing on them. It's wearing on their family and the stress. I understand their stress, and I just can't not support it. And to me, this is not supporting them to not get this thing out to the bids.
And you still have an option to put it out for bid this year.
That's where I'm at. I don't like to dig my heels in, but I can't support anything else. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Is there any other thoughts?
I guess one respect, I understand what you're saying, but digging your heels in is also stopping the process this year. Because there's, I think we're all gonna have to give a little to keep this project moving.
Come on, I just said 4.5. And if somebody I had a conversation today that I have a lot of respect for. And they made that comment to me and I was annoyed by it, and I processed it and thought about it, $4.7 million. And he comes back and says 300,000. And I'm still at, 4.5 is where I've already voted for, we've already said it, I mean, I'm even negotiating a little bit to get that bid out there, because I'm going off of Sullivan Lanes and saying that it would actually be below that.
We're about 4.8
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
right now.
And so they've already said they could come lower than that because they said they overbid them. I mean, so I'm like, okay, so that gets us back to the 4.5. I'm trying to think that out. I mean.
That's where I'm at. I mean, the 4.5 would take it down to a $3 million bond, which would be even more. I mean, there's a path here. But we gotta get hard on that.
Sandy, so the option B and C right now do not, so Trevor's suggestion or comment about going with option B, but then having the option to add the drive-through apron, that's not listed right now, I don't believe, as a alternate add-on.
But I think I expected the council to entertain hybrid options, and just like I said, that addendums are a normal method of public bidding. And as I said, you typically, what I've seen in my career is that you bid the project you want, and then you can live with, that is the basic need that you want. So typically what I've seen in all the projects I bid, you bid the base project and then you add. And you were doing it the opposite way with deduct alternates, and Solid Line was calling that out because it's slightly unusual, I think. But what you're talking about is what I've traditionally seen. You bid the option B, the $5 million option on those sheets we have, and then what if they come in really competitively? And Solid Line is hopeful, and we had a lot of conversation last week about that. But you bid the option B, and we asked Solid Line to, as they design the parking lot change and the new site plan, we asked them to design an add alternate with the return apron, and you have the bidders all bid that return apron as an add-on. And so if B comes in at, say it's 4.2 or 4.4, and you get the return apron for 9.5, you add it on, you're at 4.5, and you get the project you want. If B comes in at, 4.8, you say we're gonna stick with, that's the only thing I would suggest to this council, talk about what that number is on bid day that you're looking for.
So I just won't.
So what we're talking about right now is 5.1 is option B.
5.0.
5.1.
Is it
5.4. Yes, but yes.
So 5.1.
Why not 5? I mean,
Anyway, I think we're talking about the same thing.
It's the same.
I don't think so. Not when we're perhaps within a couple $100,000 of having a plan here.
Option B is 5.078, according to Solid Line.
Really, when you're that close, you'll need to have the bids to know.
So 5.1
Estimate.
is basically where it says that we're at for the project. And EJ, you're saying that 4.7 you're giving up. To come up to 4.7, but we're not even approving a 4.7
We
here.
also don't have real numbers yet.
I understand that, but what, if he bids, or if he says yes tonight on 5.1, and it comes back at 5.1,
I basically just said that I'm not gonna, I couldn't do. So here's some of this, for some other perspective, we gotta continue to give. So I'm just gonna kind of throw some crap out there that I've heard. All right, I'm gonna take a moment. Dave, when he went out to campaign, literally talked to probably most of the residents in town. And they said anything of like 5 to 6 million, they said you're nuts. So we've jumped from 3.6 or 3 all the way to 4.5. I heard it, you're crazy, you're nuts. You know, so I was like, okay, 4.5, that's where I was at. And then you start thinking the perspective of how we got here. The derecho, we had to approve it based on not going out to the public. Then I've had conversations with multiple people. You know, if we go out to the public, do we truly believe that they would approve a 6.6 million, 6.6? I think they would say no. That's just my gut feeling, based off conversations I've had, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I think we all have. So we're all trying to compromise here to get to where we're at. But if we don't, and we end up going out to public, then we got to sit here and try to figure it all out again. We have to go back out. We got to go talk to those people. We got to do a vote. And then what if they come back and say no? Nope, I'm not spending $6 million. And the thing is, in a hypothetical situation, if the duration never happened and we start talking about the fire station, we would have had to go out to the public anyways. You know, we don't know. They could have said 4.5, you nuts, and could have said no to that. We have to think about that perspective. I know we're 3 years in it, and we made some mistakes on the way, but we really want to do what the public wants to happen here. And I truly do not believe, Jim, that if we took this out to the public, they would reject it in a heartbeat, and then we'd be back here anyways.
Then
we gotta put it out to-
firemen, our fire rating is gonna go down, the insurance is gonna go up $300, and then they're gonna change their mind.
Hold on, Jim, let me get. So last week we had a workshop about the fire station, and we invited the public to come and do public comment and provide written letters. And overwhelmingly, I'm not saying that there's not people that would
I
disagree
think
with it.
most
Hold on.
people are hiding behind the
So
vote
the people
spots.
that came to participate were supportive of moving forward. So we have to listen to those people as well. The ones that came to participate, submitted written comments, stood up here in person in a public meeting. So I hear what you're saying. I know there's people on both sides, but, you know, that means a lot too. And we need to remember the people that participate in the process. And that's what they did last week. So, you know, starting over or whatever is not an option for me. I think,
And that's what I'm saying. That's not really an option. I don't want that option.
or even
I'm trying to get
down.
Jim to understand, if he wants to stick to that, I mean,
Well, again,
I don't
you
know.
want to keep in mind, folks, the funding mechanism for this is not the city spending $6 million. I mean, it goes on the books, but the partnerships we've been able to work together, and granted, if you have lesser costs, that partnership should go down too. But the city happens to be the last one in the chain to vote on this, and that's
So
where we're at.
we heard tonight that in less than a year, our assets grew by $1.2 million. I don't know, is there a major chunk of that we can attribute to FEMA insurance or some other proceed?
Maybe the 700,000 of insurance
Okay.
came in that.
It's
Does that sound right in FY '24? Since July?
Probably before that.
I'm saying if we get that almost right away back.
Probably before that.
Oh, then I'm not aware of it.
But the city currently has in cash 3.7 million, almost 1
Well,
year of.
Didn't we get our FEMA money from like our trees and all that stuff? Oh, we still haven't got that money.
So, yeah, we've grown assets. We've seen in multiple budget to AFRs, we budget more than we actually spend. That's been the case for at least the past 2 or 3 years. Okay, we're rebuilding the chart of accounts so that we're gonna have in '25, and by the time we come back, hopefully in November, when we first start talking about the '26 budget, we can do like kind of run rate calculations and have a much better sense of exactly what those line item budgets should be from an operational standpoint. We're talking about, you know, employee wages and benefits and fuel for the trucks, service, maintenance for the equipment, salt for the roads, all those things. just, that we'll actually be able to budget for accurately. That is all improving the financial picture looking forward. The debt capacity. On the $3 million bond, by 2027, 2028, year 5, we're back to our current debt capacity. Well, a little less. So we're at 4.659 right now, 4.7. That's after the 20% contingency. And we'll be back to 4.1 by year 5. With a $3.5 million bond and $300,000 of fundraising, there's no incremental tax.
Yep, and that's what I've said from day one.
3.5, we're at 3.5 right now. We're at the $3.5 million bond on option B. And depending on what the return acre comes in at. Basically the shrinkage from the bid, from the estimate to bid can make up the difference to pay for that. That's kind of in my mind what I'm thinking about. Not only that, by 4 years, 3 to 4 years out, the township gets its $40,000 back. Well, sure, but that's now operational funds support of the fire station. That's all in the $3.5 million bond. This is not only it's affordable by a mile. It's not even a question of affordability. And I mean, I just can't stand to watch this thing hang on this city's neck for another 5 months, 6 months, 8 months if we're off by a couple $100,000 when we've got $3.7 million in the bank account. I propose a motion to go with option B, and we add in an option for the return acre.
I'll second. Is that a motion? Did you mention?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll second. Okay.
So a motion. Option B.
You should second. I did, yes.
Okay, so a motion and a second for option B with an add-in for return apron. And that's the apron to 3rd Avenue.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on that motion?
So what we're proposing is $5.1 million with the potential to add more onto it is what I'm hearing. And basically, why I bring that up is previous councils have only approved up to $4.5 million. And basically what we're going to do with this vote is go above and beyond that. Again, this is the 3rd council this has been through. This is 4 years, not 3 years worth of being out there, being in the public eye. 5.1 just doesn't make sense to me, but I truly think that we could have got there to 4.5 with an option with changes to be made. That's where I thought we could get to.
Would comment that the votes have always been on the bonding, the 4.5 million. What we have too is that a year ago in May at 60% design plans, which is the first time you really get engineering estimates. The total then was 5.9 million. And once those get refined more to 90% plans, then you're at 6.1.
Not for any engineers.
So anyway, that's, I just challenge that a little bit. terminology may be the thing that's in play here, but 4.5 is the bonding limit, which you had to set early on. To
But the
see
thing
if
is,
you could
that's
do
what
it.
we voted on though. I mean, we voted, me, Sandy and Jim, we voted on 4.5.
$4.5 million bond, I'm asking for a $3.5 million bond. That's the difference.
They were saying the bond, but they were also thinking it was the entire
I think
project.
Then they voted in there.
I'm just want
I
to,
mean,
just point
that's not
that
what they
out.
voted on. They voted on a $4.5 million bond, and that's what we've all been paying taxes on.
At the time we voted on the 4 million bond, 4 or 5 bond, we knew that there was gonna be $1 million, $1.5 million come in from FEMA. I was expecting.
That's
to
not
come
what
in
I've heard. I've heard that that's not-
I was
6
under the
million.
impression.
That's what I thought all the time. We was hoping for 4 and come in under that, but I was expecting between 5 and 6 million from day one, because that's what things were running.
It did grow over the years, yeah. The cost of the project grew from the after.
So we do have a motion in a second. Any further discussion on that? DJ, do you have some?
No, I already said it. I mean, like,
Okay.
after 4.5, I'm at the point where
We had how long did we discuss this? For any ideas, how we could get that number out? I heard 0. I heard no ideas, specific ideas.
I'll give you an idea right now,
Well,
but it's not for me to sit here and decide what the hell we need to do and what we not need to do. As far as the redesign, it's just as much, with an option, you should have had options that brought us down to the 4.5 then. If you're only talking about the option B. You're not saying, well, give me options for adjusting it. Well, I could take all the brick off of it. I don't need brick on this building to make it operational. I don't need it. And you know what? I heard in a previous meeting that you're building a $500,000 house over here and you want to have brick on that side of the house. You know what? My neighbor don't have brick on their house. I'm not going to have him tear it down.
we're not doing that brick. That brick's out.
There's brick on the front of the house, or on the front of it and on the side of it. So that's basically an option. I would want to, but it's not me that's wanting it but it cuts down on the design cost, is take out some of that area where we got the room for the workout room. You put your room, and that's basically where it was up at Center Point, was they took their decontamination room and they put it where our current workout room is at. And it's up against the building. And then you take out some of that area where there would be tornado shelter, and design it like the tornado shelter that's up in Center Point. Basically, that cuts out a lot of expense. What it cuts out, I have no idea. But there are options there to get it down to a reasonable amount, down to that $4.5 million. I don't know if it's going to get it right there, but I heard Solomon Lang say that facility up there is 4.7. Not that I agree with them, but today, if we were to build that facility, it's 4.7. 4.7. That's total project.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's the process that's been involved has been laborious, long, and the different things to include in that are for this community, with its department acting the way it does with the EMS capabilities that are actually very good right now. And so there's things that are good in that building that you would not find Center Points, but and also just the other night we had a warm storm warning here, and we had a meeting room full of folks, really.
We should have never had that meeting that night in here, knowing we had the weather coming in here. We should have never had it.
Well,
And they shouldn't have it at that down here either. They would, again, I asked that question about Center Point. I said, Center Point, why don't you have a larger facility? Because you could be having an office. We wouldn't have that. They said they
Why don't you
canceled the
move to Center
meeting.
Point?
Remember that the fire station is.
It's a tough word, we go
to
out to other places to understand why and what they did.
So,
It's what we did
and,
to try to educate.
and our team visited 2 locations, Solon and Center Point. But, anyway, that's kind of how we got there with the different requirements for the building. And, I think the team put in a lot of time and the fire department.
If the council's not going to engage in the inches to get this where they think it needs to be, then who is? All we're gonna do is blow the project up and start over.
That wasn't an option to me tonight. A, B, and C was the only options I've been given.
I worked, Dave, on building those options. I got engaged, made phone calls, asked questions. That's what I'm saying. I'm asking, do you guys see a path to get to the number that you want with this building?
The day I got on the city council, we were fighting this. They pulled it ahead of me. I went to the planning amendments for the fire department. I didn't like some of the things on there. I brought my concerns up. I had the fire department and the engineering staff explain why they were doing it and what they were doing.
Did
I
anybody ask
accepted
you?
Either. Why do you have to be asked? Meetings are posted. I wasn't asked. I went to the
They
meetings.
put the goddamn meetings during the day when I work.
I took it as coming onto this council. I'm a part of this city government now. And what this council does, I am partially responsible for. And so when I got on here, I inherited all these problems. They're not just their problems, they're my problems. So I had to take ownership for this project as it sits, with no control over how we got here. And frankly, like little appetite to talk about it anymore, because we can't do anything about that. I wasn't here, and honestly, I wasn't paying attention probably like I should have been. Maybe like a few other residents can relate to that. So then I got engaged.
So did you get engaged during this whole process and actually say, this is what you need to cut out of the building?
No. I mean,
That's what you just got done telling us.
well, the mezzanine, the parking lot, the glass doors, the brick off the back wall. And I'm comfortable, as I said, option B is entirely affordable. With a little bit of elbow grease, we raise some money. It's no burden to the taxpayer. I mean, at the $3.5 million mark. I understand, I think I do understand that there is aversion to the price tag, to the total dollars involved, the $5 million number, the $6 million number. To me, 6 million, I agree. As we went through earlier, that for the current authorizations and planning that are in place is not tenable. It's going to require funds from the general fund that need to go to other things. But 5, and we have every possibility of this bid coming back somewhere like 4.1, 4.2. And we've already talked about maybe we're not going to spend money on furniture right away. Maybe we don't need new gear lockers. Maybe the contingency doesn't get used. The professional fees are overstated. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars there.
But we're voting on the 5.1. We're voting on 100%.
I'm not approving anything to go forward. I'm trying to get actual numbers.
That's
So,
true. I would comment to clarify, at this point, we have no bid numbers, we have no bid contract to award, so that's where that is true,
So
so.
we have to accept the bid. I mean,
You said you're trying to get actual numbers, Trevor, but you're pushing us 3 months down the road before we can even try to get actual numbers.
Jim, in my
That's a fact.
estimation, that's the cost.
That's a
That's
cost.
the cost when I talk about consensus building. That's the reality of the situation.
And the reality is if we push it down 3 months and we push it down again, we've lost a whole year. whether or not we keep our firemen if they put this up for a whole year. I'm seriously concerned. Personally, it ain't gonna make a damn to
I
me.
just don't think that's very fair to individuals sitting in here. I'm kind of speaking for them.
So the ones that are sitting here, you get to quit?
No, that's not appropriate.
I'm just tired of
It's not appropriate.
I'm saying that.
The building is not the issue. The issue is all this crap that's been going on for 4 years that we've been dealing with in the public and everywhere else. It isn't the building. You guys don't understand that. We put our lives on the line for this town. And this is, we get bashed on the internet, we get bashed behind closed doors. You're spewing stuff that you haven't got a clue about.
What don't I have a clue about?
Center Point, I'm so tired of Center Point.
Exactly. What did I have?
Center Point would not build now for $2 million. Our fire
It
truck that
was
we
built
bought
for $2 million.
a year ago has doubled in price because of cost of steel. What's a steel building gonna do? The fitness room that everybody is so wound up about, it's a FEMA requirement. We're getting FEMA
No, it's
money,
not.
you've got a FEMA
No, it's
requirement.
not. He corrected that last week.
This building you're talking about doing, the apron out front isn't even big enough to put a truck on. How about if I cut your driveway off so when you wash your car, half of it's laying in the street? I mean, I don't wanna spend $5 million on a building and not be able to park something outside and close the door. It's ridiculous. But arguing through all this is what the guys are tired of. Come to a meeting, we're getting close. Come to a meeting, we're getting close. And nothing happens. It just keeps going on and on and on. It's been 4 years. We lived out of our cars for 6 months. I don't know what else you want us to do. You want us to raise money to boot? We're doing all the volunteer work, and now you want us to raise money too.
Weren't we raising money before all this started?
Our dinners brought in about $6,000 a year. That's not gonna do a whole lot to $1 million budget. We're not talking about raising hundreds of thousands of dollars.
If we get,
I'm sorry I interjected, but I've had enough.
so if you have a motion on the floor, I think everybody's probably chatting enough here. We have a motion on the floor for option B. Yes, I would also entertain the idea that if you'd like to modify a motion to include the 40-foot apron, see how that would fit.
I don't think it'll fit. I mean,
You have to move the building.
Because once you put the building in the ground, it's gonna be there.
I hear what you're saying. That's why I hope this return apron can come in. There'll be a lot of space around the back of the building. It's on the team, what your SOPs are for moving in and out of the building, if it's safe to back out or not. But I'm hoping we can get you the space on either side of the building that you need. The engineer said there's no trouble backing out, and we can talk about even closing the road or giving you authority. I don't know what our options are to close the road when you need to, if you need to have it in the street to inspect your gear, clean, or do something like that. I don't see another way.
Well, I think there had been some discussion during the planning process of moving the building back 40, so, or whatever the distance is to have the 40-foot approach.
That made you have to build a parking lot.
Well, actually what it does is it takes out part of the parking lot that is a travel space. It's not a parking location. So, that may work, I don't know, I haven't been able to.
Well, that should have been a design option. I mean, like, that should have been like what Dave's trying to say, that should have been an option if within some of these.
But as far as, I'm just asking if anyone would entertain that motion to explore that.
I feel like that's too many variables for the design. I mean, there's a reason why we shrunk the building 8 feet.
Right.
Which was part of some of that cost savings as well.
Right, but as I understand, even after 8 feet, that building is pushed to the west as far as it can go.
It's gonna be right next to the parking lot.
Right, but the area that would be removed is not parking. It's a travel space.
Yeah, are you talking about this lane right here?
Yeah, the one, because
I'm
that,
just
that
thinking
came
about
up was the idea of, so the design that this would require. What I hear the Mayor Visser saying is it possible that you could ask the civils while they're designing the parking lot that is not yet designed for option B and C? Would they be able to look at it to see if the building could be shifted back and use part of the existing lot?
Would that cause any complications with, like, whatever information we need to offer FEMA soon? It wouldn't? So will we be having the same conversation after they have that design done? I mean, it'll have to be the same one, same
We
conversation.
haven't got a final approval fee. If we go,
Give approval and obligation.
if we go down to the 5 million, is that going, I know there was some numbers there that we,
No,
And-
the Department of Homeland Security came back today and confirmed that as long as we stay within the building footprint, not the building footprint, but in the EHP footprint, the Environmental Historic Preservation footprint, that FEMA does not need to remove
With these new options.
any of these new options do not require that. No, the only thing that I'm saying is that it's possible, that the civils do have to redesign the site plan. That's what we're asking them to do. You could ask them, as they're doing that design, we'd turn them loose on the design, and they would come back to you with the design to go out for bid, but you're gonna have to approve that plans, bids, and specs anyway.
Right.
I mean, that's the next council action, would be to put those plans and specs out to bid. You could start with that. Now, I think you should, say that even if you can move it back, you want to remove the 8 feet.
Right.
Because that's a cost savings. I mean, that's in the 5.1. That, there's no question that that's, if you put it out.
Does that take out the drive-through lane?
Yeah.
What you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know about.
And what Al Buck came back, I think, the last time to us was to say, when this concern came up was, can you take off that corner? And the concern was the flow of the parking lot is compromised. But have we had the civils look at like taking out all the medians and reconfiguring keeping the existing parking lot, reconfiguring the medians so that the flow of the parking lot is different, but you're maintaining that same, $500,000 plus savings by not replacing the parking lot. But you have to keep all the deducts, essentially, and I don't want to say that you move it over and you keep the existing size, because that's part of the cost savings is the 8 feet off the high base rate.
Are these like requirements, or is this just stuff that the fire, I'm just trying to understand, is this like an actual requirement, or is this just something that?
It's being able to park the truck out front in the driveway, I mean, which is not unreasonable at all. I don't apply that.
Every building he designed says a 45-foot apron out of the chute on the front, so you can park it right on.
We do have 2 bays that are drive out only, so. Part of that consideration is that if you are returning, there would not be a return. They would have to park on the parking somewhere in the street, or, should be in the parking lots, in the street.
It should be in the rear. I mean,
Well, but
there's concrete behind it.
Well, true, but if you're in the bays that are not drive-through, you would drive around, and then you would have to drive back around on both sides. I just thought I'd offer that would be one avenue to explore, to get, or probably a needed item for the fire department.
I just don't know how that factors into what we give them in the design timeline.
What, have you talked to Al about that? Does he have an idea of what that would add for design time? Because
I couldn't tell you, I wouldn't want to speak for them on that. I just know that Taryn, as they told us a couple weeks ago, removing concrete to them is not very expensive at all. But,
Putting it back.
well, right, yeah, it's putting it back, and they maybe I'll take a look at it, and say, it's not possible.
So I will share, I thought, so that question came up and Al Buck's response was, says, I think it would basically be the same cost reduction as the other schemes that leave the existing parking lot intact, but I'm not sure it functions the best in the fire department. We'll likely lose some parking spaces behind the fire station. So, there was
The stat, yeah.
some 8 to 12 discussion about number of parking spaces that are reserved solely for responding firefighters. And that those would probably be compromised. And certainly the functionality is unknown of the current.
One of the things that I remember that Al said was that Southern Lane did not do that civil engineering. If we start into the parking lot stuff, they was going to have to get another firm.
Well, we already do. Snyder, our city engineer is Solomon Lane sub.
Okay, I just see he had another person for the civil engineering part of the parking lot and stuff, but that's gonna be Snyder argument.
so if we were to explore that option, would we have to add that? I don't, I guess I'm not opposed to this. But I think if it were an option, I think it would be in front of us, or, would they have thought about that maybe with the driveway?
They definitely were moving the building over to the east in order to get it off of the parking lot and maintain the existing parking lot in its current functionality. No question, yes.
I just think about, to the extent there was concern about the drive-through drop-off service for the library books and the bills. And we've basically be taking that out, it looks like, right?
It certainly wouldn't work that way.
Right. Well, I think in both cases, some of those items. But, so we have a motion on the floor. Is, I want to call for a vote. Twice, okay? And we'll roll call vote then. Is David Fisher.
Nay.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Jane Kane.
I know the town's gonna regret this, I'm gonna vote aye. I'm not gonna be around here to see it. But Amy, if we lose this season, I can't let it go. I will vote aye.
EJ Bell.
Nay.
Motion carries. 32. Nice. So proceed with option B.
City's gonna do what's been for the last 30 years, pick the cheapest option and win the trip.
Well,
I'm guessing.
we'll hopefully find a way to make that happen. Dwayne, something here for the fire department. We appreciate their contribution to the process, the months and months of meetings and visiting places and things like that. They have put a lot of time and effort into it, as well as the members of the committee and their engineering team too. They put a lot of options out here for the folks. Okay, with that, I think it's rather late in the evening. Anyone like just to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Hold on.
Yeah, there's stuff on here.
Yep, there is, but we.
I want to leave this for Sandy. Do you want to, well,
I'm happy to wait till late, whatever the council decides.
Wait, yeah, skip them.
Yeah, let's just, I just announced.
well, I'll leave that up to everybody else. We need to make sure that gets added to the next one.
I understand. Well, we can modify our motion to adjourn with public comment.
I'll make the
The public standard practice is to allow public comment for items not on the agenda, and 3 minutes. State your name and proceed with that. Anyone like to make a comment? Okay. Seeing none. Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
We need a second.
2.
Okay, I'll second.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you, everyone. It's getting late tonight. We'll take up some matters later. Thank you.
It's not gonna affect me. Fire department, that's all I get, if all my insurance goes up. I don't need it. I just feel Hate this construction season, and I don't feel bad.